So after my experience in both the hospital setting and then the higher volume, low budget centers where the focus was on volume and pumping out surgeries, I decided that there had to be a different way. So in Miami, in terms of the private practice community, you had these higher volume, low budget centers, or you had like the ultra high end center, which was not accessible to the majority of the population. And I felt that it wasn't right for the patients to have to choose between these two options, which were not ideal. There had to be a place where you could focus on the patient journey and of course their safety and their education, but at the same time in a way that is accessible to the majority of patients. And since I had not seen that anywhere in Miami, there was no place that I could join or anything of that nature, decided that we just had to build it ourselves. My vision for creating pure plastic surgery can be summed up in one sentence, which is to bring the human back into plastic surgery. Hello, hello. Hola, hola. Bien, bien. ¿Y tú? Growing up, I was very, very dedicated to my sport, which was equestrian jumping. This is something that I started when I was 7 years old, and I took that to pretty much the highest level you could take a sport, which was representing Puerto Rico in the Olympics in 1996. That sport and that dedication taught me, many things, which I then incorporated into my surgical career. One of the key aspects regarding that was the concept of teamwork. You can't build a surgical practice on your own, and you can't be at the top of your sport on your own either.
Thank you for calling Pure Plastic Surgery. This is Roxana. How can I help you?
Throughout my riding career, I depended on many, many people in order to be successful. The collaboration that was needed from all of these people and your horse in order to be successful is something that I knew was going to be required in order to have a successful practice. That concept was brought very early on to Pure Plastic Surgery. In fact, the first person that was always there for me, throughout my career and in starting Pure was my wife, Michele. And of course, I wouldn't be where I am without her.
I have a background in anthropology and business administration. My early years in my career were mostly in nonprofit organizations that helped the underserved and particularly women. And through that process, I really learned about collaborative processes to really get things done. After a few years, I started a consulting business, which also focused on helping small businesses and nonprofits really start small projects and envision what they would look like and then bring them to fruition. I was never in a very hierarchical organization. It was always in an organization that was where teamwork was the first thing that we focused on. And I think he shared that in the OR, but never really saw it from the administrative side because he wasn't really exposed to it. As a surgeon, as a doctor, he was really just focused on the clinical side. So what I think I brought is my know-how, but also that, again, shared value of investing in the people that make your team, and not just in the OR, but also in the administrative side.
The plastic surgery landscape in South Florida got a reputation of providing really cheap surgery at the cost of patient safety. And that was something that kind of became well established and that a lot of patients were actually tolerating because of just really affordable surgery.
Miami is very well known for lower cost plastic surgery. It's one of the major kind of internal medical tourism types of destinations for aesthetic surgery. In order to maintain those low costs for the patients, they have to, of course, lower their costs as much as possible. What ends up happening is that a lot of corners in terms of patient safety and, of course, the patient experience are being cut.
My early years here in Miami were at the University of Miami. I was doing more reconstructive work, and unfortunately got to see what the Miami plastic surgery market was and can be.
When I was working in these low-cost, high-volume centers, there were a few red flags that I noticed. Well, first of all, I was being pushed to do as many surgeries as possible. Sometimes, starting a case at 7 or 8 p.m. And going well into the middle of the night or early morning hours. During those times, I was not able to even meet the patient until just before the surgery, or just an hour or two right before the surgery. Another red flag that I noticed is that the patients really had not much recourse in terms of people to contact after their surgeries. There was no 24/7 emergency lines, and so they're basically left to deal with their recovery and any possible complications or questions after surgery completely on their own. Another red flag that I noticed during those times is that the patients were not truly educated on the procedures that they were about to embark on, and did not know what are the signs to look for, so that a complication could potentially be dealt with early before it became something that was very difficult to treat afterwards. Unfortunately, there have been several cases, which you've seen in the news here in Miami, where patients have passed away from their cosmetic procedure. So when I started noticing these things, I decided that I definitely could not stay in that environment. It was all about, how many surgeries you can pump out in a day or a week. And I felt very much like the patients were being treated like a number and not like a human being. No matter, how much education I had, how much training I had, how safe the actual procedure was, there were too many things that were out of my control that could potentially lead to a bad outcome. And I certainly did not want to be in that situation, and I did not want my patients to be in that situation. Miguel and I met a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away.
Far away.
That's right. I mean, we've been together since sophomore year in college. Many years together, many different moves, and many challenges that we've had to overcome together. In 2017, I made a decision to leave the hospital setting, but it was a scary decision. At that time, of course, I've been married and we had 3 kids, and of course we had a house and a mortgage and all the things that people have that they have to pay for. And so that's why I decided that I would join one of the clinics in order to have some income while we built Pure Plastic Surgery. At that time, I had partnered up. Unfortunately, very soon after we had purchased a location and built it out to the way we wanted to, quickly realized that the partner wasn't going to work out. We had taken out a huge loan. So when we decided to split, the lenders said that we had to repay the entirety of the loan up front, which this was like a lot of money. And so it became extremely scary time. And the only reason that we were able to do this was because of the support of my parents and Michele's mom and her brother. So basically, family. My father always said, friends and people may come and go, but your family's forever. And it is that family concept or that family culture that Michele and I try to bring to Pure Plastic Surgery. Because we know that if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here today.
I mean, when I think about where we started at Pure, we started with this kind of dream of what the practice would look like. And 7 years later, now we see this dream come into fruition, and it's actually, I think, everything that we envisioned and a lot more. And that's really, yes, because we had this idea, we had this vision, and because we put our whole hearts and everything that we are into making it happen. But at the same time, we chose the right people to help us build this practice. And so we continue to invest in our staff. We continue to invest in really thinking about the entire team as a family. So exactly what he talked about, the sense of family. And I think we've achieved that. Of course, every day there's new challenges, and of course, every day we have to work through it and dig into deeper places of ourselves to find solutions. But that keeps us grounded, and it keeps us going. And definitely, I think 7 years later, I can say I'm very proud of the practice that we've built, not just us, but with everybody that has joined the practice since.
Yeah, when we talk about bringing the human back into plastic surgery, certainly the focus is, of course, the patient and the patient journey, but also the environment, the workplace, the people that have allowed us to bring this vision to life.